The future belongs to those who dare, those who do extra. Hi, I am Croskery, and welcome to Business Live Extra, the program that looks beyond dollars and cents to the movers and shakers in business and the capital markets. Today's guest has taken up the mantle to steer this company into the next phase of growth and development through continuous innovation, strategic investments, and boundaryless thinking. He holds a Master of Business Administration and MBA from the University of Surrey, United Kingdom, UK, a Master of Philosophy and a Bachelor of Science from the University of West Indies, UAE, and a Bachelor of Law degree from the University of London. He is a certified port executive, CPE, and he has held numerous leading positions throughout his career at Airports Authority of Jamaica, AAJ, and the Shell Company, West Indies Limited. In almost his 12 years at Kingston Wharves Limited, he served as Chief Marketing Planning Officer and later Chief Operating Officer in this company. He was appointed CEO effective January 6, 2020. Joining us is Mr. Mark Williams, Chief Executive Officer of Kingston Wharves Limited, KW. Mark, welcome to Business Live Extra.
Thank you, Mark.
It's great to have you.
Wonderful to be here.
Yeah, Mark, it's such a pleasure to have you. I'm CEO of such a massive company, huge company. Your market cap's 55 billion Jamaican and so. We haven't had many companies on Business Live Extra that size, except for financial services.
Indeed. Appreciate it. Thanks for the invitation, Mark. It's really good to be here. I'm very excited about Kingston Wharves and its future. As you say, if we separate financial companies from those on the stock exchange, Kingston Wharves is clearly at the top.
Yes.
And we're very pleased with that, a legacy of over 76 years. And we're just very focused on a very prosperous future.
Yeah. And how did you, your whole career, you mentioned before, started off as let's say a chemist,
right,
or in chemistry.
Right.
How have you ended up in, say, logistics, persons generalize it, I would say globally, not just Jamaica, and
right,
call it just, shipping overall. But how has your career kind of pivoted and moved from chemistry into now, shipping?
A wonderful journey. I started out life being a scientist. Certainly in Jamaica, you have your parents want you to do medicine. But I was reasonably good, I would say, at chemistry. I did my first degree in special chemistry. Back in the day at UAE, you had to be invited to do special chemistry based on your grades. I did reasonably well. I did a first degree in special chemistry. Then I specialized. I did a master's degree in organic chemistry. So in another life, I'm an organic synthesis. I actually make drug.
So you were actually constructing the formulas in your early career?
Indeed. I did that. I make drug, pharmaceutical drug. And I publish papers.
And in those days, were you making actually like formulas for like what we now look at as generics, or it was, I don't know, all types?
At the type, it wouldn't be generic. The idea I would develop new drug, and then the generic would come thereafter.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I did. I did a bit of teaching. I was young, got married, was in graduate school.
Yes.
Do tutorial. I did a stint at UTech teaching pharmacy students. My first job, I was the chief chemist at Chemicals Worldwide Limited. And,
was that like an American-owned company, or
no, it's a
British-owned? Or?
Fully owned Jamaican company. At the time, it was the largest chemical company in the Caribbean. One of the key brands would have been Swift Chemicals. People would tend to know that. And, if I take a step back, my family has always been in business. So business has always been in my blood. I left chemistry and I went to Shell Company of the West Indies. And I just got pushed into business. And I would have been promoted a few times. And
when you were at Shell, Mark, and you made that kind of jump, what were you doing at Shell, throughout that kind of career ladder?
Interesting story. I went to Shell to go to the chemical department in Shell, went through a series of interviews, and then when they sent it to London, Shell being a UK company, they said...
and would that have been like lubricants, or like when
Shell
you say
chemicals.
Okay.
Yeah, some lubricants, but chemical for industrial chemicals, household, etc. And London at the time said, just hold on. I was told I was so impressive in the interview, I was sent to another department, and I went to the LPG department.
Okay.
And, after many years, after about 2.5 years, I was promoted to sales manager. And then, you figured you want to just have your best self in a job. And then from there on, I did a master's degree, MBA. I was promoted several times at Shell. I went overseas. I was a regional expat. I lived in Barbados. I managed 10 countries in the Eastern Caribbean for Shell. As the business unit manager there, we sold the business in the Eastern Caribbean, came home to assume the general management function for Shell LPG, which, by itself, Jamaica was larger than the Eastern Caribbean. So that was a big move. And then Shell sold the Jamaican operation to Neil and Massey. And they asked me, I managed that business for just about a year through the transition, et cetera. And I was headhunted to go to the Airports Authority of Jamaica.
So you went into public sector?
I went into public sector.
Okay.
Just to give back.
Was that just something you were getting a bit kind of bored career-wise, or was it more of a compensation move, or was it a mix of moves, or why make the jump from private sector to public sector? In your mind at that point of your career.
Interestingly, it wasn't for compensation; it was less. I just felt it was my time to give back.
To give back, okay. Or you just wanted something different?
No, I just wanted to give back. At Shell, I was given a lot of good opportunities. I went all over the world for training, and I felt at the time it was just give back to nation building. As I said, I was headhunted and I was asked to prepare the airport, at the time Norman Manley International Airport, for privatization.
Gotcha.
They wanted someone with private sector skills and international experience, and I had that at Shell. So I went there.
How long were you there for? Like, how long was that stint for?
I was there for 5 years.
Okay.
And at the time, I felt it was enough to be in the public sector.
Yeah.
And then, again, I was headhunted from a company out of the US, State and Chase, for Kingston Wharves. Kingston Wharves had a global headhunter.
And that's as far back as 12 years ago now.
As far back as 12 years ago.
And so something that you've kind of seen, as you kind of built your education, your MBA, etc., and your career path, is you've been headhunted quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
You're in demand.
I've been fortunate.
Yes.
I've been fortunate.
Yeah. And would you say, a lot of board of directors, Mark, and chairpersons out there, they tend to say it's not always a sales guy, it's not always a marketing guy that gets ahead, or the CEO role, but somebody who tends to be analytical or pedantic. These engineering degrees. As you say, you're a chemist or a scientist, as you say.
Yeah.
I mean, have you found that has helped you a lot in your career?
It has, and certainly when I'm looking for people, I generally tell my HR manager, that's a tussle, that I want someone with a science background, an engineer. That analytical thinking is extremely important. Obviously, you want to complement that with sound business acumen, et cetera, et cetera.
Maybe you can train them internally.
Indeed.
I mean, if with the right attitude and approach.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so just take us through. So in Kingston Wharves, you've been here 12 years.
Right.
And so you clearly have been promoted within the company.
Yeah.
And what's that been like for the past decade or so?
It has been awesome. I've been promoted 3 times since I've been at Kingston Wharves, but it's the journey for a small company with a strong international presence. Wherever you go in the world.
Yes.
Clearly, Kingston Harbour being the 7th largest natural harbour, Kingston and Jamaica is known, but Kingston Wharves, as what is considered to be a regional terminal, is well known globally.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
But you find in Jamaica, we really take that for granted, or a lot of us as citizens in Jamaica don't really know that, I would say. Or even that statistic you just gave, we really don't know that.
We don't.
Yeah.
And, certainly my corporate relations and marketing team, they're out there trying to educate Jamaicans of the role that Kingston Wharves play in nation building. Notwithstanding us being a private company, Mark, you find that terminals are the catalyst for growth wherever you are in the world.
For countries?
For countries, for economic growth.
Major part of the country's GDP.
Major part. Yeah.
That's great. And so were you actually with Kingston Wharves as far back as whether it was Grace Kennedy was involved or NCB was involved? I mean,
I joined
is that the kind of around a timeline?
with NCB.
But NCB they were still a shareholder at that.
When NCB at the time was the largest shareholder.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you just taking us through, I mean, you see so many large companies or conglomerates. They tend to more go outside, you know, with putting in CEOs and stuff like that. What do you think makes Kingston Wharves differently with, like say, you know, a guy like yourself coming up from within the company? Because you don't see it as much, I would say, on the Jamaica Stock Exchange now. You tend to see a lot of headhunting, and just bam, you know, somebody's hired outside and it surprises maybe the executive team or even the stock market. But you are a testament of something that Kingston Wharves has done, I would say, a good thing, but uniquely.
I am. And, you know, there are a couple of people that you just have to thank. My former CEO, Grantley Stevenson, was big on...
A legend in the market.
A legend in the shipping industry, was big on developing people and preparing people. My current chairman, Jeffrey Hall, we have a wonderful relationship, and it's all about building what we call the bench strength at Kingston Wharves.
So there's a lot of time spent
planning,
on succession.
Development. You know, for my own part, I would have had opportunity for good executive business training. I've gone to Wharton, I've gone to Columbia Business School, all in anticipation of preparing me. Notwithstanding having a few degrees, you know, you want to have some real life business school experience. And Kingston Wharves is big on training, and I'm continuing that legacy. So
the governance is important, the board charters are important, but there's actual real succession planning happening consistently.
Indeed, and that's very, very important.
That's great to hear. We're going to come back to that, Mark. Yep. We take our first break on Business Dive Extra. We hear all about Kingston Wharves Limited when we return. Welcome back to Business Dive Extra. Kingston Wharves Limited has been on a steady growth path since its inception in 1945, marked by increased profitability and competitiveness. Kingston Wharves is recognized as the region's leading multi-purpose port terminal operator. It connects the nation's importers and exporters to over 45 international ports in the Caribbean, Latin, and North America. The port terminal provides full suite cargo handling and logistics services 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Some of these include stevedoring equipment, rental, stripping and stuffing of containers, cargo handling services, and third-party and fourth-party logistics. Kingston Wharves Limited, KW, now operates subsidiaries that provide cold storage services, industrial and port security services, and skilled labor for port and industrial needs. To tell us more all about the company is Mark Williams, Chief Executive Officer of Kingston Wharves Limited, KW. Mark, welcome back to Business Dive Extra.
Thank you.
You know, you do provide a lot of services out there.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and you also provide, you know, like is it bonded warehousing or SEZ? Yes, you know, the cold storage stuff. I mean, how does that kind of all, you know, work, and what's kind of the leading, let's say, concentration on the revenue side?
Right. So Kingston Wharves is as you said, it's a multi-purpose terminal. We have two broad areas of focus. One is in terminal operations, and the other is logistics. Our terminal operation is about 70% of our business. For that, you know, we're into containerized cargo. We move motor vehicles to 45 countries around the world, as far away as Australia. We're into edible oil, we're into grains, we're into lumber, we're into steel.
This is a terminal site.
This is a terminal operation. We say if you can put it on a ship, we'll take it off.
And if you know, I say that in the annual report, and I always see in your quarterly reports, you always say terminal logistics.
Right.
And so the headlines are simple, but if you broke it down to, you know, the average investor, the terminal just means the ship docks and it offloads, and that's the terminal side?
So it's a little bit more. So it's the stevedoring, the ship docks that you take off the containers or whatever it is, the cargo. You store, you manage that inventory on the terminal.
Okay.
And as I said, that is big business.
That's like the core business.
That's a core business.
Right.
The other side of what we do, which is very complementary, is the logistics business. Now, you know, it's the flavor of the month for people to talk about logistics. Kingston Wharves, we have been doing this for 76 years.
Yeah.
So that involves, you know, your standard warehouse operation. For the man in the street, they would know if you have a barrel from your family overseas. That's just a small part of it.
Yeah.
but we manage inventory for other people. So we manage your stock. We do order picking, you know, return of goods, inventory management, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we do for the logistics. Now, that's a broad array of products. When a certain hotel came into Jamaica,
yes.
we managed their logistics. So, you know, we would have gotten a note to say we need 100 refrigerators, we need 200 mattresses, we need 500 TVs. We pick those, we pack those, we manage the inventory.
So you have like a business development team now, almost.
We
okay.
We deliver those.
So 10 years ago, just taking a step back, right? Did Kingston Wharves actually have a logistics division or segment, or is this something that came on stream while you've been there? Or when did this whole logistics segment start?
Certainly. We really got into it. It was part of my mandate when I got there. It was already there going along, but the focus has always been on our terminal business.
Okay.
Part of my joining Grantley and his team was to focus on expanding the business.
Yeah.
And therefore, we expanded a lot in logistics.
And is it that when being a kind of a younger business, logistics is growing at a higher growth rate than the terminal?
Yes, it is.
It is?
It is.
Okay.
It
I mean, do you see, you know, I see the makeup kind of like 66%, and then logistics is smaller but growing faster.
Right.
I mean, do you see one day logistics maybe 50-50 with terminal, or that's a pretty hard feat?
No, it's not. I mean, you know, we'll talk about the boundaryless thinking in a bit. You know, we see ourselves as a facilitator of business, and if that means on the terminal side or the logistics side, we'll go that way. We expect nearshoring, that concept of bringing the cargo closer to home, closer to the buyers, to expand even more the logistics business.
Right.
But we're also looking to expand our terminal business.
And you know, coming back to that, because Kingston Wharves, I mean, as you mentioned, logistics is now growing.
Right.
You came into that kind of, you know, business segment.
Right.
But breaking it down even further, are you saying it's as simple as I just want to send 1 barrel of diapers? I can actually do that now through Kingston Wharves?
Yes, you can. And even more so, we've taken it to another level in terms of clearing your barrel. You can do that on your smartphone.
But and how does it kind of work though, Mark? Is it kind of like I go down there and register as like a customer of Kingston Wharves, kind of like what you would do with some of these courier logistic companies, or what's the kind of vibe like? Like how does it work?
So there are two options. That's the traditional way that you would come to the terminal to clear your cargo.
Because I guess the mindset was like you had to go through a broker at one point.
Yes.
You know, so I'm just kind of curious.
Depending on the value of the cargo, you do go through a custom broker. I think it's over $5,000 US.
Okay.
But that's with Jamaica Customs. What we say to people like yourself, if you're a family sending a barrel, you stay at home with your smartphone, you register on your smartphone, you pay all your charges. So the cargo is examined by customs, you get your duty, you pay Kingston Wharves, you pay the shipping line, you pay Jamaica Customs on your smartphone. And then you're given, you're sent a WhatsApp, and within 24 hours, you do curbside pickup.
So you've simplified the whole process?
We've completely simplified the process.
Okay. And so do you even have to kind of go down there physically to register KYC, like know you're a customer, or you can do this all online now?
Everything is done online,
so
on your smartphone.
So you're easing in a bank?
Yes, we are.
No, this is great to hear.
Yes, we are.
And is that something that you've been kind of marketing, or you've been kind of putting out there, or you've been kind of just letting it kind of, you know, grow word of mouth or referral based?
No, we have been very focused on marketing that. It's on the media, social media, word of mouth, traditional media.
Is there kind of a brand or a name you have for it, or it's just called
It's called Click and Collect.
Click and Collect.
Click on your phone and you collect your cargo.
Okay. So it's like something like PriceSmart has been doing, like with groceries. Where you go upstairs, you pick up your groceries.
And you pick up your groceries, pick up your cargo at Kingston Wharves, and in 10-15 minutes you're off.
And have you been seeing a nice growth curve?
We've seen a nice growth curve in that, not to the extent that we want. It's funny, Mark, people still want to come to the terminal, come to the wharf.
Like a little bit of face-to-face still.
As an experience, it's an outing. And we're saying, that's good, but you can just come and pick up.
Yeah. It's good there. And what about some of the other services? I mean, so those are kind of the headline, terminal, logistics. But are there some other things that you offer, like when you mention a hotel? I mean, you have a big kind of brand out there for like cars and transshipment, and you see all those cars down there when you're driving past.
Certainly.
I mean, is that a kind of a growing segment as well?
In fact, our car business is the fastest growing segment. We moved in excess of 160,000 units last year, as I said, to 45 countries.
So not just for Jamaica consumption. This
Certainly,
is
not just
going all
Jamaica.
over.
So when people pass Kingston Pen, for example, which is a facility of Kingston Wharves, or global auto logistics facility, people immediately think all those cars to the Jamaican road. 70, 80% of the cars that we move, of that 160,000 cars, they're going overseas. We're a major transshipment hub for 5, 6 of the world's largest car carriers. And Kingston Wharves, this Jamaican-owned company, is doing that, reaching the globe. Every continent on the globe, Kingston Wharves has direct service to every continent.
Right. And how does that make you feel, Mark? It's Jamaican-owned. It's a part of the rock. It's it's here to stay. But there's not many like that.
Yeah, and it's a humbling experience. You feel, and I often say, the staff of Kingston Wharves, notwithstanding it being a private company, we feel that we have a national mandate. During COVID, we were delivering oxygen at 2 a.m.
Wow.
We were delivering oil, we were delivering gas, we were delivering food supply. So we feel that, it's a national duty that we're doing.
Right.
It's more than just a job for us.
Yes. Amazing. And how do you find, are you finding a lot of, say, team members, employees, are taking up shares, or do you have an ESOP or employee share program now, or have you had to spend a lot of time kind of educating, just on the message you just kind of had, but staff on the value in share take-up?
They are. I must tell you, we certainly believe in sharing the success of the business. And, over the last 3 years, Kingston Wharves' profit has grown remarkably well. And on those occasions, we give staff shares up to this year. Given our 2021 performance, we give every single member of Kingston Wharves, over 700 staff, and they were all given shares.
So that's the head count now?
That's,
700 or so team members?
Yeah.
And that's part-time and full-time?
Both, part-time and full-time. So we have a core business of about 200 permanent staff.
Yes.
We have some contracted staff and casual staff.
Yes.
As you can imagine, if you get 2,000 cars coming, you may need just 100 drivers today to take them off. And so,
That's great to hear. Yeah. Okay, we're going to come back to that, Mark. That's great. We take another break on Business Live Extra. More when we return with the CEO of Kingston Wharves Limited, Mark Williams. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. KW closed another big year end for 2021, registering record financial results. The company closed December 31st, 2021, registering revenue of Jamaican $8.67 billion, improving from $7.13 billion year over year, and net profit for the year of 2021 of Jamaican $3.25 billion. The company reported continued growth for its first quarter ended March 31st of this year, with operating revenue growing 21% to $2.24 billion. Net profit for the first 3 months of 2022 grew by 21% as well, registering a bottom line figure of 678.8 million Jamaican. KW impressively closed the quarter with approximately 9.5 billion in cash and short-term investments. Still with us is Mr. Mark Williams, CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Kingston Wharves Limited, KW. Mark, welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to see you again with Business Live Extra. You know what really jumps out to us on Business Live Extra with the results? I mean, $9.5 billion of cash, short-term investments. Just looking at your market cap, approximately 20% of your market cap right now in the market, you got with cash. Great feeling?
Wonderful feeling. Good. We have some dry powder, looking for opportunities.
You sound like a private equity guy, investment banker.
Looking for opportunities, but also equally important, the port business is a capital-intensive business, and we have plans for major investments that we can have a conversation about. But I'm very pleased. We have some good cash.
So you raise a really important point, and I see a lot of analysts in the market kind of asking those points, and they're always clamoring for more and more investor briefings. Right. But is that, you know, 9.5 billion Jamaican, is it, you know, there's a comment in some of your results about,
Right.
you know, the 60 million US infrastructure plan and,
Right.
you know, how far advanced that is or
Right.
where that's at.
Right.
And, but also a lot of analysts out there say, you know, is it deal time, Mark, or are there going to be deals, or is this cash? You know, just like how Wisynco has a lot of cash, and there's only a few companies in the market
Right.
that have this amount of cash on their balance sheet, which is a great position.
Right.
But a lot of persons are probably calling and saying, Mark, you know, is it deal time? Is Kingston Wharves going to make another bump?
Well, you know, what I would say, obviously, we are a business that's listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, so I can't give away too much of the secret. But we're looking for opportunities. We are expanding the physical infrastructure of the terminal, which requires, you know, extensive amount of capital. But we're also looking out for deals, opportunities. Yeah, we are.
And if you could say, like on an annual basis, like what's that like? You know, I mean, as you say, unless you can physically be on the port, it's hard to get a perspective of the size.
Right.
You know, in some of your annual reports, you give numbers of, you know, equipment and, you know, what it takes to operate it. But what's that like on an annual basis to CapEx and to keep this thing running?
Well, you know, what I can tell is certainly CapEx this year, you know, the big CapEx item is about $60 million US.
So you actually deploy 60 million US of, call it new funding just for...
Yeah, we obviously we have some, you know, we've had some loan, you know, really good, attractive, you know, rates, and with our own equity.
Right.
You know, for example, we purchased another crane last year. One of the cranes that we use is 6 million euros. We have 7. A crane requires minimum 2 what we call stackers to work with it. Those 2 stackers requires 4 trucks, etc. So it's a capital-intensive business. We can have some conversation about just the physical infrastructure of the terminal. You imagine walking through Miami Airport. Every airport and seaport always expanding.
Yes.
It's just part of the nature of what we do.
So a whole year's profit, you know, as I said, plus some, you know, cash or plus some loans could just go into that type of infrastructure, depending on the year.
Depending on the year. We tend to be very strategic and, you know, carefully plan our initiatives, you know, in 5-year segments. And so in that way, we have a long-term view, but looking at the short-term opportunities and infrastructure development.
So, and then depending on the wording, is whether it's cold storage, you know, just warehousing or SEZ, is that also a part of kind of, you know, taking up some cash or expansion plans as well?
Yeah, yes, indeed. So, in fact, part of what we plan to do, we'll be constructing 300,000 square feet warehouse and cold storage facility in phases.
Is that in close proximity?
In close proximity to the terminal on Ashland Road.
Okay.
We have some commitments already, and again, it's about nearshoring. It's about offering world-class facility to local, regional, and international clients.
And so the goal with that is to bring in tenants into it. Is that you try to like lease the whole?
It's a dual thing. We do a bit of leasing, you know, but return on lease is just one thing.
Okay.
Our job, our 9-to-5, we're experts at offering logistic services. So we want to do more than just be a landlord.
Okay.
You know,
it's more just filling up the capacity.
Filling and just doing what we do, which is full 3PL logistics.
And when you spoke about growth, so I mean, so you have that type of growth. I mean, you know, you have your organic growth.
Yeah.
But kind of so you are open to, let's say as a CEO or Kingston Wharves, you're open to whether it's acquisitions or, you know, regional growth.
Yes, we are. Kingston Wharves is, you know, readily recognized as the region's largest and best multi-use terminal. We feel we can leverage that expertise in other areas, and if the opportunities present themselves, of course, we look that way.
And who's like the global benchmark, would you say, Mark? I mean, the name always like a seaboard always comes up on global exchanges, but are there other kind of recognized bodies or recognized companies that kind of come up as some of the global comparative valuations or benchmarks that, like when you say recognized and you know, appreciated, like who do you refer to?
Our region, MIT in Panama, people talk about the Panama Canal. Well, one of the main terminals there, MIT, is recognized as a global player in the region. Then you want to look at Rotterdam. Even Freeport. And within that group, Freeport in Bahamas.
In Bahamas, okay.
And within that group, when you look at it regionally, Kingston Wharves' name is always mentioned.
Really, like whether it's at conferences or
always mentioned.
Regulatory bodies.
In fact, what I can tell you is that last year, Kingston Wharves was recognized for innovation and technology in digital infrastructure and technology in a global competition with terminals.
Okay.
Kingston Wharves.
And even when you mention something like that, you speak about cranes, you speak about the brick and mortar. So when you talk about digital now, that's referring to like the app, or that's referring to just the efficiencies, or what.
So the app is part of it.
If you break that down, when somebody talks about shipping on ports,
certainly,
how does the digital come in?
So there are a couple of big buckets that we tend to focus on. Clearly, people, the plant. We talk about our processes. That's where the digital technology and infrastructure comes in. So the ease of clearing your cargo, click and collect on the app, the ease of speaking with international clients as far away as Australia. We have what we call a terminal operating system. So we get the customer integrated into that. The port community system involved with connection with all government agency, IT infrastructure to get connected with Jamaica Customs, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a broad ecosystem of infrastructure.
Yeah. And coming to your earnings, Kingston Wharves, has been growing nicely, over the past, couple of years, 5 years, et cetera. But since your time at the helm now, been growing nicely, or even nicer, like a kind of a 30% growth rate or higher, one of the better growth rates on the stock market.
Indeed.
The share price, interesting, has, pulled back a bit, to closer to the 52-week low or so. But a bit of the market has done that. The net profits just seem to keep coming, Mark. What do you attribute that to? I mean, is it that really shipping is like chicken? It's a bit inelastic, we have to keep, importing, exporting. I mean, but what do you attribute it to on your leadership style?
So that's part of it, but I think there are a couple of, key issues. One, people do business to make money. Shipping lines will choose a terminal that can offer value for money, and Kingston Wharves have invested in its people. We've invested in the plant infrastructure to make it better. We've invested in the processes, and what you're seeing is the natural outcome of profit. So it's people, it's plant, it's process. If you get those right, the profit is a natural outcome. We have invested heavily in our equipment. If a vessel, when a vessel is docked at a terminal, it's not making money. Our job is to get that vessel in and out as quickly as possible. I have I call them family members, because they're not just staff. We have some family members, some staff, that will go above and beyond the call of duty to deliver. When ports in LA were closed during COVID, Kingston Wharves remained open 24 hours, 7 days a week. This
is during the say peak COVID or
peak COVID, when we're having supply chain issues. I have staff coming to work, rain or shine. There's a level of commitment, and the results that you're seeing now, I'm just lucky to be the conductor of this orchestra.
Yes.
We have everyone else playing their instrument, playing their part, and my job has just been made so much easy. I am just the conductor for this orchestra, and I'm loving it.
And do you find to that point, from you coming up, within the company, that 12 years, you have a high level of mutual respect, within the business as well?
Definitely.
Yeah.
The level of commitment, we learn to disagree without being disagreeable. We don't want to have groupthink. If you have your opinion, we want you to share your opinion.
Yes.
We want to have the conversation. But when we've made the decision, all hands on deck. And that's, I think, is what is uniquely Kingston Wharves. We have just launched what we call the KWA. It's what defines us to be uniquely Kingston Wharves. And I could tell you, it's about accountability, commitment, and excellence. So if you go from the CEO's office to the person cleaning the compounds, they can tell you about being a KWA ace. Accountability, commitment, and excellence.
Great. Love it. Sounds great, Mark. We're going to come back to that. We take another break on Business Live Extra. We speak about the future of KW when we return. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. The Kingston Wharves business model is segmented into terminal operations and logistics. The terminal operations typically contribute 2/3 of Kingston Wharves revenues and profits annually. The logistics service division has been growing at a fast clip annually, or in some quarters at 30% or higher. We find out about the continued capex the company has been strategically doing in BERTH 7 redevelopment logistics, warehousing, and why. In light of KW hitting approximately 650,000 in warehouse capacity and the modus operandi behind this business move by Kingston Wharves. With significant cash on the balance sheet at KW, are there any ports, logistics, terminal plays in the Caribbean on the horizon for Kingston Wharves? For a final time, we have with us Mark Williams, CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Kingston Wharves Limited. Mark, welcome back to Business Live Extra.
Thank you.
You know, on the point of, you speak about KWACE, a really nice acronym, the
Right.
KWA. What about like corporate social responsibility, you know, just giving back?
Right.
You know, does KW have a foundation now, or are you doing some things, you know, like say in the vicinity of the port, or what's kind of the company's approach to that?
We take our role as corporate servant, you know, very, very importantly. Kingston Wharves has supported Jamaica under 15 cricket, under 16 cricket for over 30 odd years.
Really?
All the big names from Chris Gale to Marlon Samuels, to Marquina Medley came through Kingston Wharves development program. All the big name West Indian. So we do that in sports, we give back. It's not just giving money, we try to, you know, instill some values and discipline in young people. And that's on one hand. And the other...
Is it island-wide, Mark? Or
island-wide.
Island-wide you do it, okay.
We are the longest sponsor of any cricket in the Caribbean. Kingston Wharves, we do that.
Okay.
But we also give to Missionaries of the Poor.
Right.
Father Holong and his team doing a wonderful job.
Yes.
We do borderline community interaction. There's a basic school within the area. We supply, you know, fixtures, furniture. We offer scholarships to the teachers to go to university to get their degree. We're big into environmental issues in and around Newport West. Most of the facilitation for road repairs, cleaning, Kingston Wharves. Last, in two years ago, we spent over 100 million Jamaican dollars fixing the drainage situation in Newport West. Okay. So we're big on
that was
corporate
kind of
social
perennial flooding issues and...
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit more, just so that when you look at the whole Caribbean makeup,
Right.
I mean, we know Jamaica, of course, critical positioning,
Right.
you know, the size. But when you look at the Caribbean, you know, similar to, I guess, how maybe Caribbean Cement approaches it and the different markets, is it just normal to think that, okay, you know, Trinidad is one of the largest, or is it Barbados, or is that not the way to look at it? That there's some other ports out there, or transshipment hubs that are just way more massive? Or?
Certainly. Those smaller islands tend to see Jamaica as the big player.
Okay.
You really would have to get into the Latin American market to find really big terminals in Brazil and Panama. But we see ourselves as a global player, and therefore we facilitate conversation within the Caribbean. In fact, I have the opportunity to serve as the chairperson for the Caribbean Shipping Association. I'm the chairperson for all the ports in the Caribbean, Latin America, Florida, etc. But we see ourselves as a global player with boundaryless linking and boundaryless opportunities to be garnered.
And Mark, that's an important point. A lot of sometimes the JSE listed companies, you know, it's not that they want to, but sometimes the chairpersons, the boards really limit the company and say, no, we're going to just limit it to Jamaica. Then they might have another listed company limited to another country. Do you, based on your comments, do you view Kingston Wharves as having that capacity to look at Latin America as well, or is it just limited to Caribbean?
The short answer is yes.
So you really view it as a potential global company in the making?
Yes, we do. As I said, Mark, we have links to 45 different countries. There's no limit for us to expand and become a real global player. And, you know, we have aspirations, and we'll see.
Yeah. And do you find that, that's kind of clarified or made clear like annual general meetings? Because I mean, it's a really good thing for minority shareholders.
Right.
Because a lot of publicly traded, I think companies really limit themselves.
Right.
When you look at it, especially whether it's financial services, non-financial services, but that really gives about a good feeling.
Right. I just think it's the fear of the unknown. And my job as CEO is to paint a vision of the future and to have that shared vision exciting other people and take them on that path with me. And that's what we're doing.
In terms of that, yeah. And when you look at it overall now, in terms of do you do investor briefings now or any earnings guidance or outlooks? Or, have you started doing any kind of...
Well, we haven't done any recently. We just concluded our AGM maybe a month and a half ago. We haven't done any recently. As I said, we have 2 major infrastructure projects going on and some business opportunities going. We'll be doing it soon enough.
Okay. And when you look at just the Jamaica landscape, does Kingston Wharves have any other exposure in Jamaica besides the current port, like anything in Montego Bay or anything in Western Jamaica, or where does that kind of competitively operate?
So no, we don't have any facility right now in Montego Bay, but the KW Group is about 8 companies,
Okay.
Kingston Wharves Group is about 8 companies. Obviously, we're looking elsewhere. We're looking at Montego Bay. As I said,
does it make sense, or is it kind of too small for you, and you're happy where you are?
Part of we feel that to do business, first of all, you need to have a solution for a customer need and make money while doing that.
Right.
So there's a need for customers to be served better in Montego Bay. We're doing the analysis to make sure we can make some money meeting that need.
Yeah. And the construction sector has been booming.
Right.
Has that played a significant role in Kingston Wharves' success in the past 2 years? And if so, are there things you're doing to diversify that, just in the event there's a slowdown in construction?
Indeed. So we move construction material, in particular steel. We have seen an over 200% increase in the movement of steel pre-pandemic. We continue to facilitate that. Again, just the infrastructure development will allow Kingston Wharves to facilitate larger vessels carrying different type of cargo and to move the vessels in and out very quickly. And that's where we're investing in the infrastructure.
In the infrastructure, okay. And where else, does Kingston Wharves have any competitors now? It's a different type of sector, different type of company, unlike say food distribution, food manufacturing. But do you have any competitors when you look at it from a
yes, we do.
Jamaica landscape or
certainly from Jamaica, from the terminal business, our neighbor next door, they're a competitor, but they're also complementary service. So CMA CGM manages the terminal on behalf of the government next door. That's a competitor of ours. In the terminal business, apart from them, our real terminal competitors are regionally. Regionally. For our logistics business, there are quite a number of competitors. Certainly not at the size of Kingston Wharves, and certainly we believe the level of competence. But we are not being arrogant about it. We do recognize that there are competitors, and our job, as I said, is to serve a need that exists for the customer and make money while doing that.
And would you say, Mark, on the logistics side, more and more you're kind of, in a way, integrating, though, with your competitors? In a way, and kind of giving solutions and things of that nature?
Because of our size and expertise, we lend support to our competitors.
Right.
When they can't manage. And yes, you use the word integration, and we do that because we feel that the pie is large enough. And I think that's one of the issues sometimes with us as Jamaican. We focus on this small pie for Jamaica only, but there's the region.
But it feels like the pie in Jamaica, or the market share, has been growing.
Yes,
just based on looking at construction, even just seeing restaurants, and it just seems like there's enough market share.
It is.
Maybe unlike some time ago, there's enough market share for everybody.
And we serve the entire landscape of that's what exists now, be it manufacturers, be it construction companies, being distributors, etc. We serve the entire landscape.
And besides what's in your annual report,
right?
You just had the AGM, highly successful, well attended. What do you really want to see for Kingston Wharves? I don't know, 3, 5, 7 years. What do you want to see for yourself? Mark Williams. What do you want to see for KW Group and those 8 companies? going forward?
Certainly, when I speak with my staff, I talk about boundaryless thinking. I believe that we can be more than just a Jamaican domicile company. And certainly from my perspective, I want to extend the reach of Kingston Wharves, talk about it regionally. I want to double the profit of Kingston Wharves within the next 2 or 3 years. I want for Kingston Wharves as a company to solidify and maintain its position as a global company. It's one thing, Mark, to be recognized as the best. It's another thing to maintain that. So that's for, as a company. As a leader, I certainly want to develop the skills and talent and competence in Kingston Wharves. I want to build the bench strength that, if that opportunity comes for us to expand in the region, we can move someone from Kingston Wharves who understands the KW way, what's uniquely KW, and just to expand.
And last thing, what really keeps you up at night? Any risks? What you don't look too stressed, but what keeps you up at night when you think about KW, KW ACE, KWA? What stresses you out?
What caused me great concern is the reality that Jamaica is a transshipment point for not just legitimate cargo, but contraband. And to ensure that we have a robust security system. When you do business internationally, the cost of security can add up. You don't want to have the wrong reputation. So certainly what keeps me up at night is to ensure that the facilities at Kingston Wharves, they're safe, that we have a reputation that is very strong and can stand up to scrutiny.
So it's maintaining that really great reputation Kingston Wharves has.
Indeed.
Through and through.
Indeed.
Mark, it's been great having you. Earnings surging, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Kingston Wharves brand, fantastic.
Yeah, it has been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on Business Live Extra.
Certainly.
Yeah. That's it for another edition of Business Live Extra. Remember, the line between disorder and order lies in logistics. We've been speaking to Mark Williams, CEO of Kingston Wharves Limited. Don't forget, you can watch us online at cvm.com/videos/Business Live Extra. Thanks for joining us.